I thought I would add a post to my account of spiritual topics, since all the topics I've covered around here obviously have so much correlated in the manners of the harassment and all other things that I've continued to even experience from people with delusions of translations of my artistic, philosophical, professional, both in literature and other aspects beyond even other things such as the finance and management and wholesale, etc., and trade that I have worked in the philanthropy, etc. So, with all of that in mind, is belief systems. There are several, right? And so, a belief system is basically two things, obviously, anything you believe in, and then the other, the more usually understood widely as the system of faith or the spiritual life of an individual, whether that is in a system of the large that you hear of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or even the lack of or the denunciation of lack being things in philosophy and others such as atheism and whatever other things you want to call it. And for anyone who is ever confused, I am nothing of anything. I don't have a denomination because I am not an atheist, but I am no part of any group thing, etc. And I do not desire, will never participate on. And that has been pretty widely stated across all of my art, philosophies, etc., throughout several years. And my conceptualization is the celebration of the true message beyond all the this therefore ritualization and the explanation of things and the differentiations of what things are, etc. And anyone can observe that it goes beyond what you find in the everyday, hence received targeted harassment and other things in the individual that I am, in what I represent, etc. So with all of that in mind, it's there is a thing, I don't know if it's now turning into a faith, or it's just part of the obsession for financial incentivization or whatever other reasons. But it seems an obsession with what some people had dubbed as cyberpunk, which really means nothing. It was just a video game invented in the name of data abuse, mashed up just like the Rococo Basilisk. And again, these things were all mashed up pretty much 2018 in the timeline of. They don't have a history or anything of. And when you see the story of what the involvement of the individuals, etc., of the data abuses and the harm and the whole thing with energy and child and adult abuse, etc., myself and my story and all of that, and the verified, including in court, etc., of several aspects and the involvement of people in networks and all of that, further add to all of the aspects of what I'm explaining here. And so the differentiation of what anybody wants to believe in and what is and isn't. You can believe in Chululu being from, underground, and that you can summon it by staring in the mirror and posting online. That is your freedom. The minute that freedom starts to interfere with anyone else's rights, well-being, be directly, indirectly, or as a whole of the coexistence of society, etc. It's no longer that. It becomes a crime. You are imposing yourself over another, okay? And freedom of speech, freedom of belief, all that becomes that. When someone wants to pretend now that they're offended, even if you're using a denigrating word, that's no longer your things. You can move on in the fact of ignoring individuals, etc. But when they come and take an action on you, that's a whole different. And so someone can use the most derogatory. I'm from South America, I'm Colombian, so someone can call me a spick. It really means nothing to me. The minute they go and take action, be paying someone, whether it is voodoo, praying to Jesus, Allah, the devil, doing it themselves behind a device, pseudonym, etc., that is another level of thing, right? That's taking an action, negativity. Me exposing someone And saying the facts out loud, whether the wording is pretty or not, that's another thing. So, with all of that in mind and coming together, is the understanding of what marks the line of what is belief, freedom of speech, freedom of being, etc. Anyone can really see that even through my expose, etc., and my usage of language and so on, it had all come before even the speaking of set words, etc., in the explanations of the background of the verification of the facts of our life lived, obviously not as an individual abusing or harming others, but beyond that, also in the application of the explanations of the sources of and the understanding consensualization of everything I speak, expose, etc., and obviously the timeline of explaining, the overwhelming evidence. So, Rococo basilisk, whatever you want to call it, you're now faith individuals or not, etc., cyberpunk, and that, whatever in my personal don't consider offensive. It's just like an atheist calling a Christian, delusional. I consider the exact same thing. But you have your freedom to believe whatever you want. However, you don't have the freedom to abuse my life in any sense of the manner, nor anyone's, nor the planet, nor nature. That's a whole other thing. Behind the device, tampering, harassment, thinking you're aligning, controlling synchronicity, lot of attraction, all these different things. That is a mental disease and that is terrorism. Period. It doesn't matter if you're an insignificant battle feeder and think that, I'm just there as an opportunity the universe gave you to, whatever. Or if you think you're, God's incarnation or the devil and you think I'm your versus whatever other delusions. To each their own, your assumptions of that is that. And so, in the sense of belief and so on, and rights and freedoms, everything's there, but there is a line of a balance. The delusions of this, that belongs to me, etc., and versus, and you want to create in that, you are welcome to even create that, like, you see in the movies sometimes with the whole story of the girl or the guy who lives this little story in their heads, about relationships that don't happen the way they are. And, that is everyone's freedom. But the minute you become this level of this, it's not. You are assaulting someone's life, etc. And, you've seen all the other things, of course, and all the insignificance of, the delusions of pretext of things, of what they are and what they're not. So, again, very important to understand what faith, belief, freedoms of that are, whether they are honored by governments, people, or not, and what you deserved, be from your deity, faith, belief, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, relationship, or your own self energy, up, down, advancement, evolution, awakening, whatever words you want to use, etc. But the reality of the facts become of what that actually means, what delusions you tell yourself, and other things, and what is and isn't. And even beyond that, in the just sense of being a person, etc., and the true advancement in any civilization and society, if you want to put it in true application, because in the reality of, several thousands of years of evidence of humanity having extensive civilizations, and then the same results of, this misery and destruction further add to the points that I'm trying to add and what is and isn't. And, with that, your right to live your life. And as a person who is pretty much gone through both the establishment of faith and, even the views of civilization and society through the beyond, not beyond the veil, but on the other side of the veil as the receiving the quote unquote theater, for lack of a better word. I've had my sense and my respect and my place throughout, and that is a value of things that you decide as yourself. Free will, not free will, God in your heart, not half in, not. It all comes back to the same, and it all contributes to the same.